Maybe a little closer to your statement earlier, I think we feel it's incumbent on us to check the bona fides of people. And so what we do is one of the responsibilities of our staff, wherever they are, so myself in this part of the world, is actually running down the qualifications of particular mediators in particular countries. And that's by talking to users.
Right.
And so it's not so much don't call me, I'll call you, but rather understand that it's not about sending me repeated requests to be on our roster of mediators. It's going to be about getting experience as a mediator, having a successful track record, and then we're going to come to you. You're right. We're going to come to you and say we want to have you available to us for mediation services.
Okay. Do either of your institutions have basic accreditation requirements or continuing legal education requirements, or is it just what you just said? ICC looks out to its national committees, and you really rely on them in terms of the capabilities. And Mark, you folks look to the customers and reputation there, but you're not really looking at the basic training or accreditation
for the
certifications.
we do not work with an accreditation process or something like that. We do provide training for counsel, training for CEO, training for professionals, but without any certification at the end of the training. We do think that that's very difficult to establish international, in particular at the international level, to establish a common standard. And the question is, who will be in charge of the elaboration of the standard? And so that's a very difficult question. And we are in the way of consultation as regard to the project, the IMI, and but we do think for the moment that's a little bit dangerous to standardize these kind of things at an international level. And we, in order once again to preserve the party autonomy, we do prefer ask clearly the party what they're looking for, what competence, what quality they want in the mediator or conciliator, and then we propose someone who have experience and sometimes also training and accreditation from other institutions, but not from the ICC. But it's not a mandatory requirement or something like that.
We do have a different philosophy in that regard. I mean, we think that our customers are looking for quality assurance. We know that mediation is something that is frequently local as opposed to global, and that our customers are doing business everywhere in the world, and that they would like to have people in those parts of the world who are competent and capable. And so we think providing a standard, and not a low standard, but a high standard, that people can reach, that allows for cultural differences, that allows for national differences, is a good idea. We do training for mediators. For the last several years, we've actually been providing cross-cultural international mediation skills training at the request of the IBA, International Bar Association. And whether we continue to do that or not, I suppose it's a matter of resources available and the like, but we've been doing training for many years. We do require our mediators to have educational background training, not necessarily by ICDR, but training. We do look for our mediators to have continuous professional development. We actually require people to go through continuing education. We don't call it training. Right. We call them symposia. But, same difference. It's best practices. So we bring mediators together, just like we bring arbitrators together to talk about process, what works and what doesn't. We think that makes for a better trained, a more competent mediator, and in the end gives us more confidence in using those people.
I can tell you both that from my own experiences, I think most of our mediation experiences tend to be ultimately, in many respects, local, even though they're international. They have it seems to have a more domestic character to them than, say, an international arbitration proceeding. And maybe it's just because you're flying into a city for a one-day meeting, and there might be people flying in from 2 or 3 different countries. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be, in many respects, you've got a mediator often there from that place, and There is a qualitative determination when you see that someone has actually gone to the trouble of becoming certified under some institution.
Needs to be a level of quality assurance. I mean, it is different than arbitration, and it is not uncommon for a party to say to another party, who do you want to use? Because the idea is that person will be more capable of moving them. It's good advocacy.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it quality assurance as much as, am I getting somebody who's really a mediator?
Who speaks mediation.
Who knows how to facilitate,
Always helpful.
Yeah.
Well, what you don't want is showing up at the mediation and after, talking about your case for a few minutes, having the person who's sitting at the head of the table say, here's my decision.
Oh, I had that once. Actually, more than once I've had that. It's just a disaster. That's the end of the mediation.
So anything, and maybe there's lots of ways to get at this. Whether it's programs like this one we're participating in now, where we're working with institutions starting up their process and assisting them with that. Whether it's providing something entirely new, IMI's process and global sort of quality assurance standard. Anything that raises the level is a good thing.
But one last word maybe about this topic, just because we really appreciate the ITC that the wave of consultation around this project, and it's very interesting to exchange view about this big project. And but one thing, in light of my experience in the IDR Secretariat, let's come back on the user's needs. I never had any formal request from parties who ask clearly, I want a mediator with this training, with this certification, or with this, accreditation, and so on. So I'm wondering.
It's a new area. It's a new area.
It doesn't exist, frankly, which is what makes IMI different than what's out there currently. What there are is a number of organizations that provide training around the world. The only outfit that really had a certification scheme that was different was NMI. In the Netherlands, and IMI is a direct outgrowth of that. In fact, it was an institution that both of our institutions participated in. It was at the UIA forum where we learned about this sort of different approach, taking the testing requirement away from the provider organization, separating it a little bit, and hopefully adding another step or another level of quality assurance. We'll see.
We want to wrap this up shortly here, but before we go, I would really like to talk a little bit about what you folks are doing to promote mediation, and not to do a promotional statement for the ICC. Mm-hmm. I've heard nothing but good things, from all quarters about this international moot mediation that you have put on. Can you say a little bit about that, how it's organized every year?
Yeah, it's the only international commercial mediation in the world. No, seriously, there is one other, but a local one in US. But it's not an international mediation competition. So we created this competition 2 years ago. So this year in February 2008. That will be the third edition of this competition. We will invite 30 teams from various countries in the world. We will have more than 80 mediators from all over the world. So that's a fantastic opportunity to see a different approach of mediation.
How are they judged? On the effectiveness of their advocacy, or on the effectiveness, what's the criteria for judging? So
they are representing clients and party and company representative. And so they are judged on their ability to use the mediator and to resolve the dispute.
Great. Mark, you guys, anything the ICDR is doing these days to promote?
It's part of our ongoing mission, and whether it's working with courts in various countries and training judges as a way of getting them to maybe appreciate the process better, whether it's assisting a institution in Africa and Asia that is starting up their mediation center by talking to them about staffing requirements and administrative procedures, and maybe assisting them with training programs for mediators or with lawyers, with advocates. It's part of our mission, and something we take seriously and we do every day.
So a judge or a mediation institution, wherever, in Africa, Asia, South America, North America, wherever, in North Dakota, ought to feel free to reach out. Do you want to give your email?
Absolutely. appelm at adr.org.
Okay. Melanie, you want to give your email in case anybody would like to reach you?